what we're going to do this lesson and the next lesson and then the one after that and the one after that is talk about poems. And every lesson I'm going to get you to write something, and every lesson some of you are going to read something out. And in our fifth lesson, which is our last one, we're not really going to have a lesson as such, we're going to have a performance to which you're going to invite your friends and family if you'd like to do that. Just let's talk a little bit about poems that you've done in school. You were asked to write on certain themes?
The only poems I ever done in school was when we were doing our GCSEs and we had to, I don't know what the word is, we had to basically read the poem and write what we thought about it. It was like three different war poems.
Good.
And it was something about gas and someone dying.
So that's a poem by Wilfred Owen, isn't it?
Which is, sorry?
It's a poem by Wilfred Owen?
Yeah.
That's right.
I think so,
Dulce
yeah.
et decorum est?
What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, very good poem. Wonderful poem, in fact. Yes.
In school I did a poem, I can't remember what it was called, but it was about this woman and she was like going through childbirth. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's in the anthology book.
It's about energy.
Right.
Yeah. Well, obviously I've burnt it now, but...
Yeah. And it's stuck in your mind. Okay, so what are we getting out of this? Who has so far had a very bad experience of poems?
I find it quite, not difficult to understand them, but I find them sometimes a bit meaningless, like they're trying to be more than they really are.
Yes.
Then instead of making it into poetry, just use it in normal sentences.
Quite.
What do you think about rap or poetry?
Well, rap is a kind of poetry. It's not an either-or. And actually, the next time we meet, which I think is on Thursday, Tinchy Strider is coming in to tell you a little bit about it. So what that lesson is going to allow us to think about is the way that rap is one kind of form, and then we can talk about all kinds of other forms, and then at the end of that lesson there'll be a chance to write in whatever form you like. If you want to write a rap, write a rap. If you want to write a sonnet, you can write a sonnet.
I can't really do rap or poetry.
So, but I'm very glad you say that, and that's a very good point to make. So let's just kind of try and pull together some of these things that we're saying here. We think it's about feeling.
There is a lot of categories of poetry.
There are.
So I find it's the way people expressing themselves and what they're feeling, like love poems, and there's tragedy and stuff like that.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about all these different forms over the times that we're together. We're going to talk about all the different kind of rhythms that help you release the feeling that you, whatever it is that you want to have, because after all, you don't only want to write sad poems. And we're going to talk about the other thing that you've just brought in there, which is about voice. You know, am I going to be heroic? Am I going to be ironic? Am I going to be comic? What am I going to be?
I like Sylvia Plath.
I like Sylvia Plath. We will be talking about her later on. When did you read her in class? What? You read her in class?
Read her? No, I've read her obviously, but not in class. No.
Good, good, good. Does anybody want to say anything else about the language that poems characteristically use? How else would you describe it? Yes.
It's just a way of expressing your feelings.
It is, but this, it is. No, it's a very good point.
There's loads of ways to poetry, like there's
Just say.
Yeah,
I've been there.
There's ways of saying what you really mean, but not actually like saying it out loud.
Yes.
Like, you can actually do it in more of a disguised way.
Very good. Actually, that takes me exactly onto the thing that I wanted to say, which is that almost everybody who's ever done anything to do with what we're doing right now, which is really creative writing, is what it tends to get called, uses sooner or later a sort of phrase which is a bit of an old chestnut, but nevertheless has a deep truth in it, which is show, not tell. Show, not tell. Which is really what Michael's telling us there, I think. In a classroom, when a teacher is standing in front of you like I'm standing in front of you now, you know, don't you, that you only believe a thing to be true when you feel it to be true. Actually, in life, that is true, I think.
Think something's true after I've seen it.
Yes, well, seeing is because it's to do with the senses. Because it's to do with the senses. It's our senses which really persuade us of the truth of something. Our brains, our intellects. If we think of them as, if we can somehow separate them out, can only describe something. It's much more difficult to be persuaded of the truth of something if it's just aimed at our brains. It's much easier to understand the truth of something if our senses get it, if we see it to be true or feel it to be true through the use of our senses. Yes.
When was the first ever sort of poetry, or the first person to write a poem, or
well,
when was poetry first ever sort of invented?
Well, I've got a kind of answer to that which you'll think is a bit silly. I think the first poem probably ever spoken is the first poem that any of us hear, and it's got two words in it, and they're goo goo.
Which what?
Goo goo. Goo goo.
The first word when you're a kid.
Google.
It's what our parents say to each other. And why I think that is a kind of mini poem is that it rhymes. I mean, it's a very straightforward kind of rhyme. It's the same word twice. It's the most basic sort of rhyme. But it's also has a sort of music to it, doesn't it? And the music of a poem is an incredibly important part of what it might mean. And I think in that tiny little sound, or those two tiny little sounds, what we understand is an absolutely basic human appetite for rhyme and rhythm. So I think that's probably the first poem. In a deep sense, I don't want to know what you think with your brains. I want to know what you think with your feelings and with your senses. Okay? The language of poetry is not like the language of newspapers or history books or the periodic table in chemistry or a physics book or a maths book or whatever it is, in which the whole point and purpose of those kinds of writing is to say something that's accurate and exact. The language of poetry is much more interested in setting us free and by the use of our imaginations, as I say, coming at truths in a slightly different sort of way. So when you're writing these poems later on today, and indeed when you're thinking about other people's poems, you're going to come to a point in the language that you're using where stuff that makes sense meets stuff that might not make sense if it appeared in a different sort of context. In other words, I almost want to say to you, don't worry too much about making sense in the ordinary way. I don't want you to write absolute gibberish, but I do want you to feel that there is room in the poems that we're going to be writing for stuff which is, as I say, gets at its truth by an unusual route, okay? And the good news about all this, about everything that we've so far been saying, is that in bringing together all these things, your strong feelings, your pleasure in rhythm, your pleasure in rhyme, your interest in stuff that doesn't precisely make sense, the concentration of language that you're looking for, all these things, there is a sense in which the stuff that you're going to be writing with me can never be wrong. So you can do it less well or very well, but you can't quite be wrong. Let's look at this picture for 5 minutes, and then I'm going to give you 10 or 15 minutes to write something about it. It's painted in, I think, 1950 or maybe 1952. It's by an American painter whose name was Edward Hopper. All right? And it's called Cape Cod Morning. Anybody been to America?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
You can tell it's American because the house is made of wood.
10 out of 10. Probably what is happening is that this woman is looking out to sea. I think probably we can assume the sea is over there, but we don't know that. In fact, if we didn't know it was called Cape Cod Morning, we might not know that. Jamal?
She could be looking at her child, like running around in the field or something.
She could be looking at her child running around. What do you think her mood is?
I think her mood is curious.
Curious?
Curiosity.
And how do you know that? Why do you
Because
think
she's
that?
looking out the window, so it means that she's looking.
I think she's waiting for her husband to come back from
Say a bit
war or
more.
something.
Waiting. Yeah, she's just waiting for her love to come and sweep her off her feet.
Do you think there's nobody in the house then?
You can't really tell from this picture. It looks like she's waiting for someone, like she's anxious, waiting for someone to come back.
Yes. In other words, it's a picture which is full of stories which we don't quite know the end of. I mean, my own feeling is that it is a melancholy picture. I think you're right about this. I think it is full of anxiety. Whether she's alone in the house or not, I don't know. I mean, maybe she is, maybe she isn't. We don't know. I mean, it's rather your point. But that allows us to kind of stretch our imaginations a bit and think.
That's what it is. Like, there's no wrong or right answer, like you said, because I might think something and someone else might think something else. So we're never going to actually know what's going on.
And I think that there is sunlight in it, isn't there? There's sunlight on her face and on her front. There's sunlight in the grass there. And there's sunlight on some of the trees and the sky is blue. But there's an awful lot of blackness in there too. There are these two big black stripes either side of the window. So it's full of menace and also of brightness, which is another way of saying that it is, in that respect, as well, full of sadness. We don't know, maybe she's mourning for somebody, maybe there is somebody in the house who she's not getting on with, maybe she's looking at somebody who's gone away. And these are all things that I want you to write about now. 2 things. I don't want you to write more than 6 lines.
Okay. I'm not creative at all.
Well, we're going to find that out. So if you want to rhyme, rhyme. If you don't want to rhyme, don't rhyme. And I want you to stay quiet while you're doing the writing, because otherwise people who are trying to concentrate won't be able to concentrate. When you write the poem, if you want to be the woman, be the woman. If you want to be somebody else, be somebody else. If you want to be a thing, be a thing, be the wind. After all, what we were saying about poetry not being quite logical can free you to be the wind, or a leaf, or the window pane, or anything you like. And I'll come around and matter to you while you're doing it. Yeah. The point really is that you should be able to feel sort of liberated by what you see.
Don't read it out loud. Does it sound okay? Oh, I need to write this bit.
Yeah, I think it's good. Put it into, make it a shape so it looks like a poem.
Okay, I'll write it
Put
quick
it into lines.
and then I'll put it into lines.
Yeah.
Just rough, because I'm not good with
No, that's good. Why don't you just write something about what you think she's seeing? What do you think she's looking
It'll
at?
be completely different to what you think
Well,
you see.
that doesn't matter. That absolutely doesn't matter. I mean, just let yourself go into it.
I don't know how to write poems. I don't know what to write. I don't know how to start it. I don't know like what to do.
Well, pretend that you're her.
I'm completely blocked.
Put yourself in her mind and just write down what you think she's
But if
looking
I
at.
was in her mind, I wouldn't think of. I still wouldn't
I
know
won't
how
be
to
looking at
write
the
a poem.
window.
Well, don't think of it as a poem in that case. Just think of it as something that... Write a little
Someone's
monologue.
got a gun to her back, innit?
What's the monologue?
It's somebody talking aloud to themselves.
I've never written a poem in my life, not even at school. I'm going to read it out anyway.
I think you should. Well, I would write it out so that it actually looks like a poem too, so that we can see where the rhymes come. How are you doing? Finished. Good. Can I have a look? Very good. This is the first poem you've written for a while, is it?
Yeah, but I could do it easily.
You think? I'm going to ask you to read it out later. Very good.
It don't make sense. Gazing out the window, not a thing in sight. I thought it was my husband, but I guess he missed his flight. The house is very dark, very grey, and I just sit and listen to the music play. Is he alive? No, wait, that's the one. No, is he alive or is he dead? I'm waiting for my husband to bring me my bread. Yes!
Don't feel that you have to stick with the rhymes if it takes you out of what you...
No, is he alive? It's about her husband. Like, I think she's looking for like her husband come back from the Navy because it's like looks old. Like the way she's dressed.
That's interesting.
Old.
It is good. I think being a fly is an extremely good idea, but I want to hear more about the fly.
So something like, as I sit here, a fly on the wall. I don't know. But for a first attempt,
You
what do
could
you
see
think?
that. No, I think it's very good. And I think it's absolutely terrific that you're kind of taking this interesting point of view in it. Very good idea, and it does make your imagination loosen up, doesn't it?
Okay, thank you.
Terrific. You know all that stuff we were saying about showing, not telling, and by implication keeping the poem sort of physical, to do with the senses. What it doesn't have at the moment is anything very particular which is to do with that precise situation. So you might want to get some sort of description in there and... just tell us what stuff is like. I mean, ordinary things are miraculous. That's what we want to see in poems. Ordinary stuff.
The sun is gleaming across the land, but the darkness still glooms. Why can't I enjoy this day? I miss my husband so far away.
Well, that's very good, because you've put yourself in her mind and you've started to imagine what's going on in the picture. I mean, it does make the picture feel as though it's sort of opening up as you think about it.
It's just a little bit of a rhyme at the end there.
I know, very good. Well,
I'm a poet and don't even know it.
How did that go? Who found it very difficult? I know you found it very difficult.
I've never written a poem before, and I don't remember if I have. I don't remember writing them in school.
Yeah.
So I don't know like how to start it off or anything because I just.
Yeah, that's the hardest bit.
It is
If
difficult.
I was to start off a poem, or it's like when I can't write stories either, but if I start it off, I get into it and I can carry on writing.
Do you listen to music? And they have, after all, they have words. Songs have words, don't they?
Yeah.
And do you feel sort of, what goes on in your head, do you think, when you're listening to the lyrics of songs?
I like the song, or I can some songs I can relate to.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, really. That's the kind of key thing, isn't it? And what happens when you're relating to it, do you think?
No, I just think like, oh yeah, I relate to it.
Yeah, because you feel it's speaking to something in your life. Okay, well, that's a start. I mean, that's the kind of connection that we're trying to make. Who found it quite... I think you said you found it quite easy.
Yeah, I just find it easy to... It wasn't difficult for me to do the poems.
Is that because you think that the picture was speaking to something that was already in you?
Yeah, because I just see it and I could just improvise with it.
Yeah.
I could just improvise with what I could see and just add and like make an illusion for the reader.
Tell us what was in your head when you set off to do it.
I was just looking at the picture, well, it's down here now, and then I just thought, let me try and, you know, make up a story for it.
Good.
Okay. Shut up. Are you listening? Right. As I stand and stare into nothing, my heartbeat races fast like a cold winter's day. I feel so lost and torn apart, my husband has left to go Iraq. The sadness in my heart reflects on the trees as I see him walk further and further away from me. My heart dies each second he walks away, step by step, my heart turns grey.
Fantastic. Give her a big round of applause. That's it. I'll see you on Thursday. Thank you very much.